We are here still in the first major division of purgatory itself, dedicated to misdirected love. We have left the terrace of the proud and are now entering the level of envy. To the left we see the angel who, in Canto 12, ushers the poets up from the terrace of pride to that of the envious. The two figures at center, just to the left of the repeated Dante, render the lines, "It seemed they were all dressed in sackcloth, woven from sharp bristly horsehair, each one propping self up against his fellow, all of them leaning back against the wall. Thus blind people, in dire want, will stand at the doors of a church on holy days, begging for their needs. They stand together, one resting his head on the other's shoulder, all the more effectively to place compassion in the passer-by, not only by their plaintive tones, but by their very posture, insistently sad. As the sun can't fully arrive at the blind on earth, thus those shadows of which I speak weren't granted heaven's light, for an iron thread had pierced their eyelids all, sewn them shut, as is done to wild falcons, to break and tame them to the hunter's hand. The resting of the heads is there. The hair shirts have been rendered with meticulous grids, but the sewn eyes are not given, no doubt because the eyes are necessary to make the faces truly expressive of remorse and envy. We don't see the lead figure of Canto 13, the magnificently delineated Sapia, the Sienese woman whose resentment of her fellow citizens led her to defy God in an ecstasy of gratified malice. Instead, we pass right on to Canto 14, where Dante addresses Rinieri di Caboli, who is dismayed at Dante's deliciously vicious description of Florence and all the neighboring cities along the Arno. To the right, a bearded Guido del Duca looks off into space, remembering the good old days of unchallenged aristocratic rule. The three remaining enviers needn't be precisely identified. They are there to show weary regret by their postures and expressions. The next level is that of the wrathful. Dark of hell, dark of night, when clouds deprive the sky of whatever little light the stars would have glimmered, or planet granted in passing. Darker than these darks, that thick smoke curtain that covered our sight, ourselves, completely. Harsher, too, this coarse substantial fog, whose stinging soot forbade an open eye. The figures we see at left center clutch their faces to protect their eyes from the smoke. The unendurable air pollution is thus effectively shown by one tactile detail. The smoke is visible in the rising wavy brown lines at left center, which are signaled as smoke by the rough chimney hole in mid-road they rise from. To the left, Dante and Virgil approach. They shield their eyes against the dazzling light of the angel that guards this cornice. At far right, we have a fuller view of the angel that guards the next terrace. On the right, we see the poets talking with Marco of Lombardy, who gives the lecture on the zodiac and free will. He looks indirectly up towards the angel who keeps the wrathful imprisoned here. Marco's clasped hands suggest the lines. He paused, then added with an obvious effort to be pleasant. You see that whiteness beginning to show through the smoke? The beams that bleach the blackness? That's the angel who guards the path of pardon leading up. I have to go. I'm not allowed to approach him until I've fully repented of my temper. Dante and Virgil look directly at the angel. For them, he is not a warning, but a beacon leading out. Now we have left the precincts of misdirected love, which included pride, envy, and anger, and come to the middle terrace of Purgatory's mountain, the level of the lazy, those who had too little love in them to manage the more ambitious sins. These are punished by being forced to run an unending circular race. As one of them explains, we're so full of the determination to do, to act, to move, we're unable to pause. Pardon us if our just penalty makes us abrupt. To the left, Dante talks with two of the lazy. They are shown standing rather than running to indicate that they are actually talking with Dante. At center, Virgil stares at another pair racing along. Thus the painter handles Dante's contradictory description. The lazy are running headlong, without pausing, yet they still have time to convey a great deal of information. 3 of the 4 runners at left are peering up, probably to show that they are always looking ahead at what they intend to accomplish. They are too hurried to spare as much as a glance. At the far right, we are at the beginning of Canto 19, the first of the 3 levels dedicated to excessive love of material objects, that is, greed, gluttony, and lust. To the left we see Dante asleep, resting his chin on his knee. In his dream he sees, as we are shown just to the right, the siren, the spirit of crude physical desires. At first she appears to Dante in her actual deformity. Just before dawn, in night's coldest hour, there appeared to dreaming me a stuttering female, squint-eyed, club-footed, with arms deformed, whitish-yellow skin. I couldn't stop looking. Though little of this is shown beyond her crossed eyes. As she sings her siren song, she becomes irresistibly beautiful. In the dream, a sacred lady appears, who has Virgil tear off the siren's clothing, releasing the stink from her crotch, that is, the inherent dirtiness of all physical pleasure, which awakens Dante. In elliptical wise, we are shown the beginning of the episode, Dante dreaming, and the conclusion, where Dante looks back in dismay at the siren's underbelly and the sacred lady. That holy female spirit's eyes communicate with the angel. The message of this last detail is clear. The rejection of physical desire is the key to rising through these 3 levels.